Aging actresses use an experimental drug to create a younger version of themselves. However, misuse of the substance and improper application lead to horrifying mutations. The movie begins with a high culinary recipe. An unknown substance is injected into an egg yolk with a syringe, after which it is cooked as a regular sunny-side-up egg. Immediately after this, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, workers lay down a star in the name of actress Elizabeth Sparkle. After the unveiling, fans take pictures at the memorial. Over time, however, the tile cracks, and passers-by no longer pay attention, only picking up a fallen burger. The aging Elizabeth, to counteract the effects of fast food, hosts a TV aerobics show, motivating viewers to move their bodies. After filming her anniversary episode, she encounters a piece of artwork, a broken toilet. Unsure whether it's an installation or a warning, she ends up performing in a nearby men's restroom. While in the stall, Elizabeth accidentally overhears a phone conversation between producer Harvey, who dreams of replacing her with a younger starlet. Later, while discussing her dismissal over lunch, Elizabeth notices a fly in her wine, a metaphor for herself, stuck in a sweet life, unaware that it's coming to an end. On her way home, after accidentally tearing down a billboard with her own face, Elizabeth gets into a car accident. Although she survives with minor injuries, she breaks down emotionally. A young resident doctor with a strange birthmark examines her and, before discharging her, slips a flash drive into her coat pocket. At home, Elizabeth watches the video from the flash drive, which tells about an injection of a mysterious substance that supposedly creates a clone from her DNA, allowing her to live every other week in the younger body. Thinking it's a draft script for a new episode of Black Mirror, she throws the flash drive away. However, after a night of drinking at a bar, she retrieves it and calls the number to order a dose. The next morning, she receives an order number to pick up at a specified location, a shady garage in a ghetto area. Inside, Elizabeth finds a package containing devices to activate the substance, along with food for both the younger version and the original Matrix. The instructions indicate that the bodies should be swapped weekly and remind that both are one and the same. Elizabeth injects herself in the bathroom, but the results seem unimpressive at first. Then she experiences intense pain and a transformation, lying on the tiled floor as her body contorts and splits, forming a younger version of herself. The younger Elizabeth, seeing her reflection, feels a strong urge to hit the town and seduce strangers. After recovering, the younger version notices familiar birthmarks and stitches the wound on the older Matrix's back, connecting it to a nutrient solution. The next morning, a nosebleed reminds her that she needs to stabilize her body daily using the spinal fluid of the Matrix. While stretching during her morning workout, she sees a casting announcement for the aerobics show host position. Buying a new swimsuit, she introduces herself as Sue at the audition and impresses the producer, Harvey, despite explaining that she cares for her sick mother every other week. Harvey is charmed by her beauty and supposed good heart. Sue soon becomes the new host, and her image appears on billboards. As the week ends, she switches consciousness with Elizabeth, returning to the original body and routine. The cycle continues as both women struggle with their intertwined existence, leading to a series of dramatic
Producer Harvey
transformations and
never
challenges.
stops
Praising the young talent. On the last day of the week, Sue goes out partying, but lingers too long in the arms of a young lover. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's nutrient supply runs low, causing Sue to experience a nosebleed. Unwilling to interrupt her night of passion and debauchery, Sue rushes to the hidden room. Ignoring the clear instructions, she draws spinal fluid from the Matrix to extend stabilization into the 8th day, which results in horrifying consequences. It turns out to be just a nightmare, but upon waking, Elizabeth is greeted with an even worse reality, a mess left from the previous night's indulgence. While cleaning up, she notices her finger has turned black, as if her old age is catching up with her all at once. Trying to scrub off the decay proves useless. After analyzing the situation, Elizabeth realizes that Sue's abuse of the substance not only has irreversible consequences, but also weighs entirely on their shared conscience. Annoyed by what happened, Elizabeth cleans the apartment and then sees Sue's show on TV. Shortly after, the neighbor knocks on the door, inviting her over for a drink. But Elizabeth, feeling ashamed, sneaks out to get the next dose, glancing around like an addict. Entering a cafe, she encounters an old man who mentions that waiting a week gets harder each time. She recognizes him as the orderly who gave her the flash drive and leaves in horror. As she walks away, the old man cryptically asks whether her second self has learned to eat, to feel beautiful and desired again. Wanting to feel attractive once more, Elizabeth decides to call her old classmate for a date. However, seeing a billboard with Sue's face makes her reconsider. She tones down her makeup, hides her wrinkles with cream, and covers her neckline with a scarf. Despite this, insecurity about her appearance keeps her from leaving the house, and she ignores Fred's message from the restaurant. Instead, she heads to the fridge for comfort food. Overindulgence leads to Sue developing a strange, fatty lump on her buttock during a photo shoot. Shocked, she interrupts filming and retreats to the dressing room, trying to figure out what's happening. Sue has a nightmare where her butt turns into an entire chicken leg. But when she wakes up, she discovers the living room covered in remnants of a gastronomic orgy. Elizabeth realizes that this will inevitably affect her young figure. On her way to work, she calls the manufacturers, but they just keep insisting that she and Sue are one and the same. At the studio, Harvey calls Sue to share good news. Her ratings are skyrocketing, and the TV channel wants her to host the New Year's show. However, this means Sue will have to work extra hours and consume more organic fluid. Day after day goes by, and soon the incision from the spinal fluid extraction becomes infected. But this doesn't stop the starlet. When it's time for Elizabeth to return, she notices she has aged significantly due to the disruption of balance. Tech support suggests stopping the process if she's unhappy with the result. But Elizabeth, realizing the changes are irreversible, refuses to give up her young version. They remind her once again that she and Sue are one, not two separate people. Elizabeth reluctantly opens Harvey's gift, a cookbook, and prepares a mountain of dishes while watching a talk show featuring Sue. On the show, Sue refers to her older half as an outdated dinosaur from another generation, which enrages Elizabeth so much that she tapes newspapers over the windows to block out the banner with Sue's face. When Sue returns home and finds the apartment filled with culinary experiments, she becomes furious. She drains Elizabeth's fluid with a reserve amount to delay body swapping for as long as possible. 3 months pass, during which Sue becomes the host of the New Year's show. The day before the shoot, Sue notices that Elizabeth's stabilization fluid has spoiled. Tech support advises initiating the mind transfer process to restore secretion, but Sue refuses. However, without stabilization, her young version becomes physically weak. Summoning her last strength, Sue crawls to the bathroom to start the process and awaken Elizabeth, who now looks like a hobbit guide from a fantasy tale. To add to the chaos, Sue's lover is banging on the door. Elizabeth barely manages to send him away with a raspy old voice. Desperate, she calls tech support and says she wants to end the experiment. The next day, she dresses as an old lady, picks up the final set from the storage locker, and prepares to inject Sue with the termination dose. But just as she's about to do it, a voice in her head reminds her that after this step, she'll be left all alone. Despite this, Elizabeth plunges a syringe into Sue's chest, but in a moment of hesitation, tries to revive the young starlet, but it's too late. Panicking, the old woman uses the mind transfer kit, inserting the needle into Sue's chest instead of a vein, leading to an unexpected result. Both versions remain conscious and stare at each other in confusion. Realizing they are still the same being, Sue attacks Elizabeth, throwing her against the wall. In response, Elizabeth smashes a vase on Sue's head and locks herself in the bathroom. After a brief chase, Sue breaks down the door and continues beating the older woman. Injured and exhausted, Elizabeth tries to crawl away, but Sue, in a fit of rage, kicks her, sending her flying across the room. Finally, Sue finishes her off, leaving the floor soaked with blood. The next morning, Sue prepares for the New Year's show, but her body begins to fail. Her teeth fall out, giving her a grotesque smile. She tries to fix her appearance but realizes her nails are peeling off and her face is mutating. Desperate, she runs through the streets, finally finding a vial with a one-time activator. Injecting herself, she undergoes another transformation, emerging as a monstrous, steroid-fueled version of herself, mutated and distorted. Dressed in a gown with dangling earrings, the new monstrous Sue dons a mask of Elizabeth's face, applies makeup to it, and heads to the studio. Surprisingly, the producers let her in without a second thought. Under the spotlight, the mask falls off, revealing her grotesque face, horrifying everyone. The audience's primal instinct kicks in, and the angry men beat her down, ignoring her pleas that she's still Elizabeth Sue, the beautiful starlet. The monster flees from the studio, splattering blood all over the corridors until it collapses outside, breaking apart into disgusting, misshapen pieces. A chunk of biomass with Elizabeth's face crawls toward her star on the Walk of Fame. Reliving the last happy memories of fan admiration, it slowly melts into a puddle. The next morning, a janitor wipes away the bloodstain, leaving behind only a cracked, faint reminder that once, in Hollywood, the great Elizabeth Sparkle had shone brightly. And so the movie ends, just like the careers of some stars who become irrelevant after the fading of their physical beauty.